All right, amazing. I think we are live right now on LinkedIn. Just let me check in order to make sure everything is all right while waiting for some people to join. Let me see. We have a problem. We are not live. Let me see what we have, what the situation is. We're having trouble. This may be a problem with LinkedIn. We'll keep trying. So this may be fixed automatically. Wait 30-60 seconds to see. Try ending and creating a new one. All right, let me see. This hasn't happened. We are live right now. All right, so we can start. Amazing. We had a little technical problem, but now we should be live. So welcome everyone that is listening today to us. That's the second edition basically of RevOps Talks. Today I have the pleasure to welcome Matt Volm, who is a very interesting person. By the way, I've been following him for the past several months. He has an amazing community about revenue operations called RevOps CoOp, and also he is a founder of one company called Funnel IQ. And I think he's going to confirm it or not, but I think his life or his professional career has been quite a lot about, on the one hand, entrepreneurship, scaling up, and revenue operations to a great extent comes along with, with the terms entrepreneurship and specifically scaling up. That's why the topic of today's conversation on why scaling companies are scaling better with revenue operations and with tools that are, have the philosophy of RevOps. So hello, and again, welcome, Matt.
Yeah, hey George, thanks for having me.
Amazing. Tell me, what is Matt passionate about? Did I describe it correctly?
Yeah, I think you did a great job. But I'm at least on the professional side, my background and the things that I guess get me excited are certainly startups, all things startups, and especially early stage companies. And a lot of what I've done and the things that I enjoy doing are, on the operations side. I've, supported, all business operations before, revenue operations. And I love the early days of building a company where it's, just you and a couple of other peoples, and you've got a lot of stuff to get done, and you just got to go out and figure out how to do it. So those are the things that get me excited on the professional side. And yeah, on the personal side, I live in Wisconsin in the United States. I've got 2 kids. You can probably tell from my background, I've got a bunch of plants kind of all throughout my house. And then I like to kind of run, exercise, do whatever I can to kind of try to keep, physically fit as well.
Amazing. Sounds very good. We have quite a lot of similarities around interests and what we're passionate about. Tell me, when did revenue operations come into your life? What happened? When did you understand how essential basically this is, specifically for companies that are trying to scale?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I was hired as the VP of Business Operations at a company called Ally.io, which is building OKR software. And at the time, Ally was a small company, early stage startup. I was, I think, around the 15th employee that they hired. And I was given all of business operations, which, was finance, accounting, legal, and revenue operations. And I think that at the time, RevOps was very early, but we called it revenue operations because it was shorter than saying you're responsible for sales ops, marketing ops, and CS ops. But I'd never done that job before, had never, didn't really know what it was or what my job was. But like all things startups and early stage startups, like that's mostly what you encounter every day. And so I was like, all right, let's go out and do this. And that was kind of my foray, I guess, into the space. And it was one of those areas that made so much sense to me in terms of, you've got this revenue engine, typically marketing, sales, success all need to work together, especially at Ally in the SaaS space. It was marketing was not only driving new demands, new customers for the sales team, but they were also, marketing to current customers to, inform them of new features, new products that were available. So marketing was now, talking to prospects and to customers. On the sales side, they were obviously working new business like they always had, but now there was this whole notion of expansion revenue and upsell potential, and they were partnering with the customer success team on a lot of those things. And so there was no longer these clear lines between marketing, sales, and customer success. And it made sense that you would operationally want to have kind of the same type of support to all of those functions rather than look at them in silos or individually. So, while it makes so much sense on the surface, it is so incredibly hard to actually execute on. And that was, I think, my biggest learning in supporting the revenue operations function at Ally was, like a lot of things, it makes so much sense and it sounds great, but to execute on it and to do it well is actually really, really hard and really challenging.
Gotcha. Amazing answer. And just as a follow-up to that, at least from my perspective, I think revenue operations became really a hype like several years ago, and it's been a hype since then. You'll tell me whether you agree with that or when you saw exactly this hype happening. But what was the turning point exactly? What do you think? When did people start realizing that revenue operations is something that if they invest in the right way, it can change their company for the better? Was it an evolution in terms of technology, an evolution in terms of how companies are operating, or was it just a change in mindset, seeing that some things, they are done in some way, but if we have a little change, a little, modification to how we are doing things, little adjustment, we are going to perform better by forming a revenue operations team?
Yeah, I think the biggest catalyst or driver for the shift was the change in kind of the go-to-market motion and how products and really software especially is being sold today. First there was this whole shift from on-premise to the cloud and software as a service, and I think along with that came a bunch of changes in consumer behavior, and a lot of those consumer behavior changes are now expected or kind of seen on the B2B and on the business side. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of people, for example, even businesses, when you want to try out new software, you expect to be able to go online, read some reviews, maybe sign up for a free trial. But when you do all that, maybe you're not really ready yet. You just want to experiment a little bit, and you won't actually be ready for another 6 months. But in the meantime, you stay on the newsletter and maybe you attend some webinars and you do a variety of these things. And then when the time comes, you're ready to buy and you're ready to purchase and, kind of move quickly, pull the trigger. That's not that's a kind of a buying journey that, touches the product and it touches, different pieces of content, and, you got to bring that person in as well and raise awareness. And so it's not as, kind of simple or linear as things used to be. And so I think, that coupled with, again, consumer behavior making its way into the B2B side is like selling is just different today. People, there's product-led growth, there's community-led growth, there's, combination hybrids, there's sales-led. And I think with that evolution in terms of how we sell and how we as companies go to market, it just naturally made sense that the operational support provided to your revenue generating teams is also going to need to change, but it's somewhat been an afterthought, right? But if you think about it, like, there's no way that you can change the way that you sell and the way that you go to market without changing operationally how you support those teams, those divisions, those functions, those departments. And so I think that's really where the evolution of revenue operations is now coming, kind of full circle. And I think, yeah, it's been, I think over the last, probably 2 years is where I've seen the biggest, the biggest kind of ramp up. I remember, 2 years ago, before we had started RevOps CoOp and Funnel IQ, it was, I was talking to a couple of VCs and other investors because I saw an opportunity to build kind of products in this space. And I saw that this category was rapidly emerging. And I thought, hey, like this is going to be a new team, a new function within the enterprise, and they're definitely going to need software to support them. And at the time, a lot of people on the investor side that I talked to, I was like, hey, have you ever heard of revenue operations? And they're like, no, what's that? And now it's, now they're the ones who are telling all their portfolio companies that they need RevOps, that they need some RevOps tooling software. And yeah, stuff like that can change pretty quickly. So I definitely think that it's here to stay. And that's at least my thinking on, what's kind of led to some of the growth and trajectory that we've seen recently in the space.
What do you think is the industry or the vertical that benefits most from revenue operations? Which are those companies that are taking most of it? And is it, on the one hand, we have those companies, and on the other hand, which are the companies which are taking advantage of revenue operations most? Is it the same answer, or is it two different answers here?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of who can benefit from RevOps, I think every company on the face of the planet can benefit. And one of the examples that I always use or point to is if you think about, I mentioned I was at Ally before, OKR software, basically goal planning, right? And kind of goal execution. If you think about that kind of product in space, every company on the face of the planet should have goals and objectives. And if you have those, you should probably get some software to help you, manage them and execute against them. And so, every company can benefit from, something like planning and goal setting. And if you take that to the RevOps space, every company on the face of the planet wants to generate revenue, and they want to generate typically more revenue. And so if that's the case, then having a centralized revenue operations team can be really, really valuable for you, because as long as you have customers or you're trying to get new customers and they're paying you, you're going to need marketing, sales, success, support, whether you're selling software or mattresses, right? So,
Sure.
I think, there's applicability and value to be had across every type of company. In terms of the folks that are adopting first, I think it's what we see with OKRs and anything else that's new is the most progressive companies and the most that are most forward thinking are typically those in technology and software. And I think those are the ones that are starting or have started to adopt revenue operations and are kind of going all in on this kind of RevOps kind of team and functionality. But like I said, I don't think it needs to be limited to just, software companies that are the ones that can value. Because, like I said, if you want to grow revenue and do it not only do it more efficiently, more effectively, then RevOps is a good could be a good approach for you.
Great. You mentioned you're speaking with some investors. They are right now very excited about revenue operations. In your opinion, and maybe from what you've heard from them, what's the solution, the product? Can we point out one or several that's right now, that could be in demand right now, but it's missing? I know it's specifically marketing technology. Right now, even sales technology is booming. For the last several years, a lot of new technology pieces have sprung up. So what do you think? What's missing right now? What can entrepreneurial minds start thinking of?
Yeah, I think the thing that I guess the opportunity that I see is all of these kind of current tools and technologies have been kind of built with the the prior go-to-market motion in mind and prior operational kind of setup infrastructure in mind as well. And so where I see opportunity is some sort of kind of layer that can sit on top of the stuff that you've already got and basically act as the glue that holds those pieces together. Because you no longer, like, everyone always wants their tools to be integrated across the stack, typically for for workflows and managing their day to day. But and understanding the value of things end to end, from marketing to sales to customer success. Even having a question as simple as, hey, for all the customers that churned last quarter, what marketing channel did we acquire them from? That could involve data from three different systems, and historically those systems have been kind of siloed and maybe not connected. And so something that can bring all of that stuff together is where I see opportunity. And then the other is just in there's all these workflows that extend from marketing to sales to success. And I think on the workflow side, there's a big opportunity. So I kind of break it down into those two buckets of, like, there's a data piece and helping to kind of connect, manage, clean, tie together all of the disparate, kind of data sets that are already out there. And then, the workflow side as well, just providing kind of more efficient, streamlined operational support for these folks in RevOps. Those are the two areas that I see opportunity. And at least on the data side, I know there's a couple of interesting companies out there doing some things. Like Sincari is, doing some interesting things when it comes to, kind of data, like data management, cleanliness, unification, started by, some former Marketo guys. So super kind of bullish on their company. There's companies like Breadcrumbs, which is an early stage company. They've gone through Y Combinator, doing some really interesting things on kind of lead scoring and allowing you to, in a no-code way, build your own sort of data models to help you figure out what prospects do you have that have performed certain activities that are actually highly valuable, that would be highly relevant to you as a salesperson to go after. So Breadcrumbs is another one doing some interesting things. And then Data Joy is another company that's out there that's I think worth a look. They started by, I think, the former CEO of Copper CRM, and their head of product is like formerly from Tableau. And they're actually doing a lot on kind of tying all that data together and providing you with some really turnkey, off the shelf, kind of full funnel analytics, forecasting sort of tools and solutions, in a very kind of streamlined way, without you needing a technical background to understand how to build and run SQL queries, or having to go out and hire a bunch of data engineers to just get you some kind of end-to-end analytics spun up. So those are some companies that are kind of in the space that are doing some interesting things right now.
And maybe here is the place to mention your own company, FunnelIQ, right now. Can you share some words about it?
Yeah. So FunnelIQ, really meant to act as your go-to-market operating system, and then and that was what we kind of started 2 years ago. And then in tandem with FunnelIQ is where we started RevOps CoOp, which is our community of, I think, almost 4,500 plus kind of RevOps professionals from around the globe. It's a free community. If you're passionate about revenue operations, you're welcome to join. And we've got a bunch of different programs that we run for folks on the community side, from a Slack group, mentorship program, weekly newsletter, video interviews. We do a bunch of different stuff. Talent marketplace, networking opportunities, you name it. There's probably a program or something that we do there, and it's a global community. So we've got 30, 35 plus different countries represented in there, and it's a great group of folks that are just willing to help and one another, and kind of propel the profession forward.
I confirm, an amazing community. I'm a part of it. And by the way, you have a great course right now that you are, I think it started, but in fact.
We're running we've partnered with Jeff Ignacio, who used to be the the head of RevOps at Upkeep. Most recently, he was kind of leading the West Coast sales ops division at Amazon, and now he took another head of sales ops role at a company called Forethought. But he's the instructor for this our first of hopefully many courses that we're running. But this course is called Unleashing ROI. ROI stands for RevOps Impact in this case, and yeah, it's a 10-week course. We're running it every quarter. So first quarter and cohort was Q2 this quarter, but we are running one for Q3. Folks can sign up for that or apply on the website, and spots are limited. Things filled up, I think, in the first 24 to 48 hours last quarter. So we haven't opened it up kind of more broadly yet, but if you're interested, apply, and we can kind of hopefully see if we can get you in to get started in Q3 on that.
Great, amazing. All right. Let's imagine, specifically for starting companies, let's say startups, there should be some point when you need to hire your first RevOps person. When should this time be? For example, in the new HubSpot course, I don't know if you've watched it, about revenue operations, they say, and I agree with that, if you need, first of all, to, form your, your core team, fix some, issues that are very critical to the company, operating as a whole. First do that, and then start thinking about scaling and start thinking about, hiring RevOps professionals. So when is the time to start thinking about revenue operations?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to RevOps, I think that you should have the RevOps mentality from the very first day that you start your company. And if you think about the RevOps mentality and really responsibility, that's also going to exist from day one, right? I mean, you're going to be getting tools, systems, processes set up, even if you, the founder and CEO, are like the only salesperson and the only SDR, like you're doing all the things to drive revenue growth for your business. So you should be thinking about that, from a RevOps perspective point of view, end to end, from the very beginning and day one, regardless of whether you have a dedicated person there. And then, the way that I always kind of think about these things, and I think the way that every startup should do it as well, is like you've got to be scrappy and just figure out how to get it done. When it comes to startups versus big companies, I think the main reason why startups do well and why they can win is not obviously because they have more people or more money. It's because they're scrappier. They try new things really, really quickly, learn from them really, really quickly, and then figure out what works, what doesn't work, and like keep doing that day after day, week after week, and that eventually compounds to the point where they've caught up and are competing head to head with some very large maybe incumbents or other people in the space. And so I think in terms of scaling your company, and even if you're scaling RevOps, I think it's the same way. Is like the first thing that you should do is like figure out how to do it yourself. Like what does it even mean? How do you tie these things together? If you want to understand the marketing, the sales, the customer success motion, document it yourself, right? And you don't need any special tool or system or technology to do that for you. Like literally just, write it down, define the various stages of your own funnel and the pieces of technology that you currently have that are, being kind of touched and influenced there, and, own it yourself. And then once you get to a point where you feel like you're ready to have a dedicated person, whether it's a contractor, a consultant, a full-time hire, right? Like it doesn't need to be an employee. It can be a RevOps consultant doing 10, 15, 20 hours a week for you. Just figure out again how to make gradual improvements day after day, week after week. Then you've, at least when you bring that person on board, you've got something to make them successful with. And you're not going to be telling them to go out and figure it out, right? You're going to have something to give them. it's like any other hire that you'd want to make, you know, for your startup, right? And I know some people do this. You should never hire like an account executive or a VP of sales to figure out how to sell for you. Like, you as the founder, the CEO, like, you should figure out how to sell your product. Doesn't mean you're going to be the best salesperson in the world, but like, you should figure out like, who am I going after? How do I get in touch with them? What are the things that work, that don't work? Okay, now I've learned some things. Now let me go out and like hire someone who's much better at this than I am. And like, they'll be able to go out and execute on it. And same mentality should apply to RevOps, right? It's like, you got to do something to understand, you know, operationally, how do you support your revenue engine? Once you get to a point where you've got something to hand off to someone to make them successful in either a part-time or a full-time role, then, you know, you should go do that. And then the last thing I'll mention is that, or I guess the last two things I'll mention is like, I'm always a big believer in, you know, like, do things that don't scale first in order to figure out how to scale second, right? So like, use a spreadsheet, do something manually. You know, it's not going to kill you. And then once you figure out, you know, maybe the painful way to do things, then you can figure out how to automate it later. And then on the RevOps side, and especially like early stage companies, I'm always a believer of hire like your first couple of hires too, regardless of what you want them to do, like hire broad in terms of skill set and adaptability. So like on the RevOps side, when I was at Ally, the first person that I hired was not like a Salesforce admin or someone who had a very narrow set of experiences, but it was someone who could essentially be a generalist, but manage all the tools, all the systems collectively. They had no Salesforce certifications or like any, you know, anything in terms of like passing exams or credentials, but they did have a demonstrated path to being able to jump into any new tool, any new system, any new process, and just like support it, get it done. So that was what I hired for first. And then as we kind of grew the team, you can hire people into more specialized roles. So that was always my approach in building and scaling teams, was hire broad when it comes to skill set, especially early on, because it's a startup. You're going to need people to do a bunch of different things, even if you think you only want them to do something kind of narrow. And then as you hire, you can get more narrow, and people can slot into things like Salesforce admin roles, or only an enablement type of role, or only a systems type of role, or only an analytics type of role. But don't start there.
All right, and we started speaking about people, you know, the different RevOps roles. If you have to point out one hard skill and one soft skill in terms of RevOps that are highly in demand right now, in terms of hard skill, yeah, let me see what you'll say. But I was just wondering, for example, in terms of software technologies as well, what is the software that right now you're seeing a lot of potential in, you're seeing that in the next several years is going to have great demands? What would you recommend to people if someone that's at the beginning of their RevOps career is watching us?
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, I think the CRMs like, you know, Salesforce and HubSpot are certainly not going to go away. And so I think any sort of knowledge, expertise that you can have in either of those tools or systems will certainly benefit you. I think, you know, for me, as I look, you know, especially I'm sure you've seen that, call it like a market map or whatever of all the sales and marketing technology that's out there, right? And it's like on one page, and you can't even, like, there's a bazillion different logos, right? It's insane. So I think the other thing that any RevOps person can demonstrate is like not expertise in all of those tools or even trying to be an expert in a bunch of them, but you know, an actual like demonstrated ability to dive into any of those tools, solutions, and like figure it out, right? So more on adaptability and kind of just willingness and actual desire to, you know, kind of have a bunch of different things thrown at you on any given day, I think is another kind of key trait for anyone in RevOps or anyone that wants to get into RevOps. And it's not going to be for everybody. You know, like For example, my wife is a lawyer, and she very much likes knowing kind of what to expect from her day, right? There's not a whole lot of surprises, and like she knows what she's got to do to like be good at her job, and like goes out, executes on these things, right? And there's not a whole lot of, I'll say, like chaos necessarily. Fast forward to RevOps, and like one day you're trying to build some flow in Salesforce, and the next day you're trying to pull together slides for a board deck, and the day after that you're doing enablement for like the new salesperson that you hired, and you started your week thinking that you were going to do this completely other thing, right? And now you didn't actually get to. Like that's just going to be what you experience every day, every week. So the only thing predictable is that you're going to have a wide variety of things to do, and you've got to be comfortable with that and also enjoy it to succeed in the role. And at least, for me and like my personality, that, it's also why I'm a founder. Like I love doing all of those different things and learning and failing and learning some more. But, not everyone is suited for that. And so I think that's I don't know if maybe that's the soft skill, is just the adaptability and, kind of the desire to be a true utility player and just go wherever you're needed, is I think one of the big important things for anyone in RevOps.
And in relation to that, what do you think about the market? The workforce working in revenue operations I think demand is rising. We would agree on that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are there enough people right now who can fill out those places that require some RevOps expertise? What's the situation in the States and from your observations for the world as a whole?
Yeah, definitely demand is rising, and certainly I think a shortage of people to fill it. If you think about revenue operations, kind of like sales, for example, right? Like you don't go to university or college and major in revenue operations. So it's not like you go and you major in computer science and you become an engineer. The track is typically like, these people are, we're doing something else before. Maybe it was sales ops or marketing ops. Maybe they were an SDR, or maybe they were just like, in finance. And now they're doing revenue operations, which also means that they're typically learning on the job, learning as they go. And now also layer on the fact that it's this new field, means there's not really a playbook for how things have been done. So a lot of people are just figuring things out as they go. And then the last kind of hurdle they add on to that is there's a shortage of people. So a lot of times if you're hired into a RevOps role, you're a team of one. So now you've got no instructions, no playbook, no really prior training or experience, and no one else to go to in your company to figure things out. So you're just kind of forced to do it on your own, as you go, learn by what works and what doesn't work, which again is one of the reasons why we started RevOps CoOp, is so all those teams of one and other folks can kind of get together and, kind of leverage the, the brain power of, the collective group. But yeah, like it's hard. So, I think that's where, we're trying to help a little bit with the community of like getting folks together, having us all learn from one another. It's why we're doing some of those education and courses to like try to provide, some sort of foundation framework, like way to approach kind of RevOps. Cause otherwise a lot of it is just learning as you go. And some people get luckier more than others in terms of like they succeed, others like, might fail and learn from those failures. But there's no great playbook or instruction manual out there for right now in how to do RevOps, but plenty of people that are certainly capable.
Sure. All right. And we focused the topic around scaling companies, around scaling organizations, but just one question about those established organizations that start, seeing these trends around revenue operations and start thinking about reorganizing, reoptimizing their team structure. Do you have any observation on that? How are they doing that? What the obstacles are? Are companies, all those big established companies already confident in doing that. I know that the most forward-looking companies, for example, HubSpot, they did a great restructuring several years ago. They established revenue operations teams. They have an SVP of revenue operations, and a lot of other companies are doing. But what your observations are in general? Are those established companies doing it?
Yeah, so I think that what I've seen from some of the larger companies is that, and I think this is one of the like one of their challenges or struggles, is that you can't just like give someone a new title and say a team and say like, hey, you're now the director of revenue operations, and then expect anything different to happen, expect different outcomes, right? Like just giving someone a new title and saying instead of sales ops, you're now RevOps is not going to change anything. For example, if that person still reports to the VP of sales, if they're still just owning sales technology, if they're still separate from marketing, success, support, like you've literally accomplished nothing except for giving someone a new title. So, sounds like similar to maybe what HubSpot did, is like, you got to think through like titles, then people, teams, restructure things. It's going to mean people that have reported certain places in the past probably, are going to start reporting elsewhere. And like, these things are going to be uncomfortable and make you feel uneasy. Right. Like change is always hard. But if you want to drive different outcomes or better outcomes, then right, like it's obviously it's going to take hard work, and like it's not going to be easy. And some folks, especially in larger companies, like might put up a fuss, but that's just the stuff you got to go through to get there. So like the main thing that I would say is like it's either all or nothing. So like either dedicate the time, the energy, the resources, the dollars to transitioning into revenue operations, or just leave it alone and continue to do what you've been doing, because anything in the middle is guaranteed to fail. And then what could happen is you might be like, oh, well, we tried revenue operations and like it didn't work, and so now you're not going to try it again, but you didn't actually try it the right way, and you didn't try that hard. So just make sure that you're putting everything you can into it, and know that it's it's not going to be easy, but nothing that nothing is that's worthwhile is ever easy, right? So that's the main thing I'd say.
Is there a company you admire that has done a successful transition to revenue operations? Someone that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, the ones, like the early ones that I know I saw when I was looking kind of into the space, again, a lot of them are on the software technology side, but some of at least the early adopters were, you've got folks like Service Titan, Outreach, DocuSign, were a couple that, were these larger, kind of companies that were kind of adopting this new, this new trend. So I mean, HubSpot, we all, kind of look at as well. So I think, yeah, like those are some of the folks to look at, in terms of examples, I think of, who is doing it early and doing it right and doing it well.
Great. Amazing. Last question, Matt. Let's think about the future. What's the future of revenue operations? What are we going to see in revenue operations in 10 years' time? What is it? How should we imagine it?
Yeah, well, I think that I think continued growth. I think less conversations about what is revenue operations and more conversations about how do we do it the right way. I think you'll continue to see more, C-level, kind of folks in a role like this. It's not going to just fall under the COO or even the CRO, but you might have a chief, RevOps, sort of officer type of position. And I think continued evolution and more tools and software and kind of systems being built for people in revenue operations with RevOps in mind. So that's kind of what I expect, what I hope to see over the next 5-10 years.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing vision. All right. Well, thanks so much, Matt. It was pure pleasure speaking with you. Thanks to everyone who was watching, listening to us today. We're going to upload this video so that everyone can watch it. You're going to see it in many places in the next several days. So thanks again, and see you in the next edition of RevOps Talks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, George.
Thanks.